Welcome to Alter Everything, a podcast about data science and analytics culture. Today, we're joined by Emil Kaz, Altrix ace and leader of the Poland Altrix user group. This episode is packed with tips for how to build your brand in the analytics world, how to jump in and be active on the Altrix community, even if you're a beginner, and how to convince your manager to set aside time in your schedule so you can upskill with Altrix. Let's get started.
My name is Emil and I am one of the Altrix aces. I am a big fan of Alteryx. I saw it a couple of years ago and it was a game changer for me. It took my life and career to a next level. Personally, I am a big fan of Magic the Gathering, the game that I am playing for around 25 years now.
Awesome.
Besides that, I am a huge fan of the obstacle races. A few years ago, I finished a triathlon, a half Ironman. Unfortunately, due to pandemic, I am not moving so much as in the past, but hopefully soon everything will be back normal and I will run and swim again.
That is so cool. When we had our intro call a couple weeks ago, I believe you mentioned just casually that you're a runner. So this definitely takes it to the next level that I didn't realize during our first call. And did you say where you're from in the world or where you're located?
No, I am based in Krakow, in Poland. This is really beautiful city. So if you have a chance to visit it, I strongly recommend doing that.
Cool. So you mentioned that you're an ace, and this is where I want to start our conversation because this is a really big deal for our listeners out there. Our ACE program is our community super user program. So these are people who are experts in Altrix and they are very active on our community and they help people a lot on the community by answering questions and writing blogs, and they're just really great thinkers. And I think that you're a really great addition to the program. And so congratulations on that. That is a really big deal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks would love to hear how you got to this point. You know, we've had a lot of Altrix users in the past who have talked about how they got course certified in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And that's super impressive. But for me personally, it took me way longer to get course certified. And I've talked about this on the podcast as well. But I want to talk to you about what your experience was like learning Altrix. And did you face any challenges?
Yeah, I think my journey wasn't so extraordinary, especially at the beginning. It took me some time to understand some basic things like that you need to keep the files in the same location all the time. I believe I broke 2 or 3 important workflows because of that. But it was just like at the beginning, in my opinion, everything takes time. You should take it easy if you will encounter some obstacles. I remember that I needed to spend a lot of time in making some kind of research on the Altrix community, how to sort the problems. And probably I could save a lot of time if I would have proper training at the beginning. But this was, let's say, tough journey that taught me a lot. What is really important is, in my opinion, that majority of the Altrix users actually have pretty tough times at the beginning, especially if they are from business. If someone have like a proper IT background, they know programming languages, probably their journey will be much easier. But I didn't have it back then, so it took me a little bit more time to become fluent in it.
Sure. And also like in that business setting, you mentioned that you wish that you had proper training. What would that proper training look like? You know, we have trainings on the community, but I guess from the business side of things internally, from your team and from the support that you were getting from managers or anything like that, I'm curious if you can share what you wish you might have had when you were starting out.
Yeah, this is a great question. I would start with the most important thing. I think I was lacking time. Like, it was really hard to find time to properly upskill. So I needed to invest a lot of time after hours doing like interactive lessons. We didn't have learning paths back then, if I remember correctly. But the interactive lessons were really good. They gave me, let's say, proficiency that allowed me to work further. But if someone would take me on the onboarding training, like 2 days training, and I would have sufficient amount of time to actually focus on that, because that's all not always the case. People very often are going to the online trainings and they cannot focus because they still get emails from colleagues all around the world. So it's really hard to focus. Mm, but I think investment like that really pays off. If you will have sufficient amount of time to properly upskill, you will get there much faster than without that.
Yeah, I think that's having the dedicated time to learn something new is really important, and I hope that we're moving in a direction as society that we are recognizing that people need time to learn these things and they need time to upskill and keep up with new technology. And hopefully that's my impression. I obviously don't know what every organization thinks, but I feel like that is becoming a little bit more commonplace, which is really good to hear. However, for people who maybe they aren't getting that dedicated time and maybe they are expected to continue their work and their common day to day and take on new platforms and learn completely new skills. What are some tips that you have for folks listening who might be experiencing the challenges that you also went through?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Mehdi. I think what is really important is that during the implementation process of Altrix, the line managers, the directors, they don't put into consideration that this time, especially at the beginning, is really challenging because you still have your own responsibilities, like you have mentioned, but at the same time, someone expect you to use the new software that you don't know yet. So it will be hard. And what I can give couple of tips. The one most common ones, in my opinion, is that there should be like an extra person maybe recruited to take care of some of the responsibilities. Maybe we can move some of the responsibilities from one person that is like a main Alteryx developer, let's say, in the team, to another person. So till that person will automate some of the projects, we can give them a brief and it will make their life much easier. Another option probably is like getting a consultant on board, but it isn't necessary. It's just important that you need to keep in mind as line manager or as a leader that probably you need to help with the free up their time, because without that it will be unfortunately very stressful and not sustainable in the long term. People will get really frustrated. They will actually not really enjoy the part of using Alteryx, and that's also really important. Like the best Alteryx users I know are really passionate about the tool. They really enjoy working with that, and a lot of people that I know, and I'm one of them, wouldn't go for a job without Alteryx.
It's hard to learn something new. So I totally get what you're saying, especially if it's a very robust and powerful platform like Altrix. When there's a lot of things to learn about it, there's infinite things that you can do with it, and so I think it could be daunting for some people. And it sounds like mentorship is a really valuable part of this journey. So I'm sure as a user group leader and now an ACE, you're in a great position to be that mentor for others looking to build their Alteryx knowledge. So can you share what you've seen in the field and maybe some ways you think that organizations can help build this mentorship culture?
Sure. Uh, Mentorship culture is very important. I think I was always lucky because I always had a feeling that I can ask other people questions, even if they were much more senior than me. I didn't have like I was thinking maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe I shouldn't like ping them on Skype or I shouldn't send them an email, but usually I was doing that anyway. Sometimes I didn't have any responses, but very often I receive an answer, I receive some support from them. So I am thinking that majority of the people they are very friendly to us, and especially Alteryx users, they are very passionate, and it's always help if you have one more senior person at least in your team, maybe in your team or in the organization that you can ask questions that you can learn from. I really enjoy if in the organizations there is some kind of place where people can share their successes. Because especially at the beginning of the Alteryx implementation process, each success is very crucial. If you are building your first workflow, if you will share it to line managers, your directors, and you will show them value, you will get support along the way. Maybe you will find an additional, let's say, time to focus on Alteryx, or maybe you will get additional licenses in your team. But I think this is really important that in mentorship, of course, you need to, it's great if you have a person that you can ask any questions that you can learn from. At the same time, I think the other thing that is really important is sharing your successes with others. If you have a place to do, that's great. If not, maybe you can go to local user group. Like you mentioned, I am the Polish Altrix user group leader. I think this is a great opportunity to network with others, maybe find a mentor as well. Maybe in your organization, you don't have a person that you can learn from. So you can use LinkedIn, find a person that match your skills or you think their skills will help you along your career. You can ask them for some kind of mentorship, maybe for an advice. People usually are very friendly, and if that person will not find the time for you, probably there is another person in the world that will be happy to assist you with your problems or your challenges or guide you during your career. So it's really beneficial to find a person like that, and you don't need to have only one mentor. Maybe you need couple of them alongside your career, because you might have challenges with, I don't know, with one technology during the 3 month period, and then you need to swap to something else. So probably you need to find another person that could help you along the way. So it's like really good to be open-minded and really good to have a network of people that you can ask for help, because why to waste time if you can ask for help someone that is more experienced in this area and can save you a lot of time.
Totally. I love the idea of using LinkedIn to find people that match your skills and using the community and attending user groups. I think that's a really great idea. And I also just want to emphasize what you said about asking questions. I totally agree with you about asking whoever you think might have the answer, even if they are higher up in the organization. The worst that's going to happen is that they might not have time and then they don't respond, and that's fine. I don't think anybody would take that personally, but the point is that it's really valuable to ask questions, and it's really valuable to leverage other people and leverage their knowledge. And I agree with you about the Altrix community. I feel like Altrix users are very willing to answer those questions. No question is too small. We've heard a lot of people say on the podcast when talking about the community. So yeah, I totally agree. And this kind of brings me to my next question, because in talking to you seem very humble, and I think that there is a great sweet spot of being humble yet proud of yourself. I mean, now you have the ACE badge on your community profile, and that's something to be very proud of and should be shared with your network and friends. But in social situations, how has striking this balance of staying humble yet proud helped your career?
So thank you for thinking that I'm humble. I think that in my opinion this is a very valuable skill, or skill isn't the best word.
Like,
Characteristic, yes. Maybe it isn't a great to be really humble in your work. That's why I have, let's say, some ways to help myself with that. It's really important. I have mentioned that it's really important to talk about your successes. I would recommend for people, whatever, if someone is humble or not, to have some kind of PowerPoint presentation that he maintains alongside his career. Like in each month, it's good to have a short break, focus, okay, what I have done in the last month, what is my biggest success in that time. If I have automated a process, or maybe I delivered training, maybe I was a public speaker first time in a bigger audience, there are plenty of reasons to celebrate. Mm, I become an Altrix ace recently, so it was a huge deal for me, and that was really, I wouldn't say that was a really big point in my career, and I think that will help me a lot with getting new opportunities in networking and having better, more interesting projects along the way. Of course, I shared that with my network on LinkedIn. I also recommend like everyone that would like to have a fulfilling career. It's good to share your successes with others. Maybe having a blog, maybe using LinkedIn to share anything from time to time and keep it even short and simple. Post one a post per week, per 2 weeks, just saying what you are doing. Maybe you are doing some interesting project, or maybe uh, currently you are doing a training in new technology. It's really good to be active. It's really good to share with others information like that. First of all, thanks to that, you build recognition, you build your brand. A lot of people that is learning a new skill are using social platforms to influence their network by giving them a feeling that they are an expert, because they are, if someone is producing content on different topic for like, I don't know, for a year or two, people will recognize him as an expert in that area, even if he is at the beginning of the career. So if someone is thinking about, I don't know, certain technology or about certain field, I would strongly recommend finding some time to post some things, some articles, some blog posts about it, because that builds a credibility. And maybe sign up for this podcast, because I think it's also, it's a pleasure for me and it's a great recognition to be here. Um, so going out from your comfort zone and try new things and show yourself in new places, like going to the Inspire conference, that's also a great way to show yourself to others and build your brand like that.
Totally. And so, would you say that posting on LinkedIn and reaching out to other people, being active on the community, it sounds like these were really maybe catalysts for you becoming an ace? Is there anything else that you would recommend for people to do? Maybe because you mentioned going out of your comfort zone. What's something that maybe you have done that's totally out of your comfort zone?
I think the triathlon was the thing that was totally out of my comfort
Yeah.
zone. We are changing a topic, but when I was training to that, I wasn't a good swimmer. I needed to take some lessons, and I didn't had a bike for 20 years or more. So I needed to actually practice and learn how to do it properly and how to do it fast. So I think very often I'm going out from the comfort zone, but I don't think much about it. Like, it's just I'm making a decision. Okay, maybe it's a good idea to start delivering trainings for others. Maybe I will still have like a feeling inside of me that maybe I'm not ready, but that's not true. If you will keep practicing and learning, you will never use those skills in practice actually. Because if you will still think that you, for example, the data scientists, usually they invest a lot of time just to practice skills, and they don't build models on the real data. And that's a problem, because if they will not have a professional experience, it's really hard to find a job. And if you have some basics and you think that you can, that you see interesting data and you can use it and try to create a model, that's a learning that you can like use in CV, that I have built a model in work, and that can be a real game changer in my opinion.
First of all, with the triathlon, going out of your comfort zone, I think that also speaks to the importance of feeding mind, body, soul, of just really trying to come at it from all angles of enriching your life. I think that it totally, everything has an effect on the other. So, like being healthy physically, I think can really have an impact on your mental health and all different kinds of aspects of your being. So I think that's it's not exactly the Altrix topic, but I think it totally relates. And it also just speaks to learning a new skill, recognizing a vulnerability and not being a good swimmer, which, by the way, I'm also not a good swimmer. So you're in good company. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting call out. And it also speaks to a conversation that you and I had previously about just kind of like sustainability in mentorship culture, about how there can't be one mentor for everybody. Like everybody needs to ask questions of a bunch of people. And if you are learning something, you might be a little uncomfortable with people asking you questions right away, but try and jump into it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that everybody has something to offer. And the more that you answer questions and get on the community and solve somebody's workflow for them if they're having trouble, even if you don't feel like you're ready for it, there's nothing wrong with that practice. And I think that it just makes you better and it makes the community better.
Yeah, I regarding jumping in and answering questions, I think a lot of aces, especially at the beginning of their, let's say, uh, Altrix community journey, where they jumped in and answered questions, they needed to make their research as well. Alteryx is really robust tool, like you have mentioned. There are so many tools inside, there are so many possibilities, and there are so many, quite often better ways how to solve certain problems. So it is like constantly a learning journey, even for the person that is actually answering those questions. So it is a learning journey for them as well, not only for the person that receives the answer from the more, let's say, proficient Alteryx user.
Exactly. And also, just speaking to the culture, I don't think that any of our aces would be upset if somebody who's not an ace jumped in and solved a question with fewer tools or just more efficiently than the ace did. I think the ace would be impressed and glad to have that learning experience. I don't think anybody would be like upset about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is, I would be very happy to see how to solve the problem easier. So in future, I could do it more efficiently. But coming back to the topic that you have mentioned about the sustainable mentorship culture, I think very often, I saw that plenty of times in my career, the person that is an expert in certain topic is very often overwhelmed. So what is important is, in my opinion, first of all, to recognize them and reward them somehow. Find also a way to help them along their mentorship experience. If they are answering a lot of questions to other people, maybe we can move some of their responsibilities to someone else, or maybe we can do it more efficiently. Maybe that person should provide some kind of training, or maybe they should host a session, invite other people, show them how to do it more efficiently and record it. So if you have this question, this is a recording. I very often was doing that on the Alteryx community. I know a lot of articles and materials that are very handy, so I can easily share them with someone if someone would ask me a question directly or on the community. So it's good to have an answer ready because that will save a lot of time in the long run.
Totally. Yeah. Like an frequently asked questions repository. I think that's a really good idea. And even, yeah, just recording a screen capture of exactly how to do it, I think is a really smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And do you have any other tips for folks out there learning Altrix or starting their careers?
Yeah, if someone is thinking about Alteryx seriously, I would strongly advise joining Alteryx community, do some weekly challenges, get on the certification program, get the core advanced certified, especially the core one is the game changer because it will ensure that you have sufficient skills to solve the most common Alteryx problems. It's really good to have some network of people to join the Altrix user groups to and not network inside of the organization. If you have some internal communities that you can join, that's also really good idea because you can see how you can potentially solve the problems that other people in the organizations had, and every company have their own issues, so you will save a lot of time thanks to that. Yeah, if you will get proficient with the tool, it's really cool to help others by answering their questions on the Alteryx community. I think this is also a great learning experience. So this is like a big journey, and Alteryx is really cool tool to solve your analytical problem. What is really unique in this tool is that it can help you along your whole career. You will start like me as an Excel user that had problems with automating his work, but after some time you can do some more advanced things, build Tableau dashboards, for example, later in the future, or maybe do some predictive analytics with the data science tools, or read PDFs files thanks to the intelligence suite package. So there are amazing possibilities, and Altrix can help a lot with different dev problems along the way.
Awesome. Lots of great tips packed into there. It's just all good fun on the community. So,
Yeah. What I would also mention, like working with Altrix is actually really fun. Like I think this is the tool that brings me the most joy in my career. This is like a logic game very often. Sometimes, of course, you can have worse days because you aren't able to solve problem very quickly, or it will take you a lot of time to figure something out. But that is life, and this is a learning experience as well. Yeah, but definitely Alteryx can firstly help you with a lot of your data problems, and secondly, it will be really pleasurable experience comparing to working with the same stuff with Excel all the time.
yeah, so one of my cousins he's a freshman in college right now, and we were visiting, and he had to finish this homework assignment, and he was up like super late at night trying to figure something out in spreadsheets that was basically the homework assignment of how to solve it in spreadsheets. And he was like, "Hey, do you know how to do this?" And I was like, "Honestly, no, but I could do it in Altrix if that was allowed for this assignment." But he had to do it in spreadsheets for the assignment, and it was just, it's frustrating when you are just stuck with one solution. But I've hoped with Sparked and other kinds of programs that we have for students to use Altrix, they'll get there, and it's there. We have the resources for people once they're ready. But yeah, and earlier you mentioned Inspire. You did give a session, is that right? A virtual session?
Yes, I have delivered a session, and I strongly recommend watching it for people that are in the teams that just started with Alteryx, or maybe in your organization there is a team that is starting and you can share that video with them. So basically, based on my experience, I have gathered a lot of tips what should be done at the beginning of the Alteryx implementation. That will be especially important, in my opinion, for leaders, but not only for managers, for directors, but people that really like to inspire others, share the best practices, like to bring the change into the organization. And you don't need to have a specific title to do so. So if you want to use Alteryx more effectively, if you think that maybe you need to standardize some of the workflows that you have in the team because you have 3 or 4 Alteryx users and everyone have different manners, let's say, of working with Alteryx. They have different folder structure. They have different ideas how the proper Alteryx workflow should look like. So I provided some teams how to standardize everything for them. And I think it can save a lot of time because I was there at the beginning of the Alteryx journey. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that the beginning of the Alteryx journey can be really challenging. So that's why I prepared this session to help all the people at the beginning of the journey to make their life easier and more pleasant, let's say.
That's awesome. I'm excited to tune into that session myself. So we'll make sure to link to that in our show notes at community.alteryx.com/podcast. So what else can people expect from you, or where can they get in touch with you at if they want to chat with you more?
You can find me on LinkedIn or on the official Altrix community. I'm also a co-owner of a company called DataPal, and you can find my details at our company page as well. Or you can visit our Altrix Polish user group and maybe even be a speaker and share your Altrix successes. I would love to hear them. So I am looking forward to connect with you, and Speak to you soon.
Thanks for listening. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, head over to our show notes at community.alteryx.com/podcast. Catch you next time.